Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It is a joy to be with you. Always such an honor, such a pleasure. Let's talk about the presidential oath. Let's talk about a president and a president's duties. Hmm. Must the president uphold the Constitution? It's in the oath, but is that what they're supposed to do? Let's talk about it. President Trump, it seems like that's something that he's struggling with. When he was in an interview with uh, on NBC, he was asked about that. But before we get to that, I want you to meet me on. Hey, Bernadette, you're always the first one there, girl. How's everybody else? Please like and share. Hey, Snowman, how you doing, sweetie? I never get a chance to say hello to you directly. Mwah. Sending you much love. Please meet me on Twitter or X at Santita J and on Blue Sky. Thank you. So many of you are joining me there. SantitaJackson.bsky.social, SantitaJackson.bsky.social, and the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. Everybody, that is the only place where I can get friends. The only place, please, because they're kicking other friends, or they're kicking my friends off on the Santita Jackson page. It's just a landing page, everybody. The only way that I can take everybody in and really build our community, because it really is about 25, 30,000 of you, but I keep losing people because you have to go to the other page. And so I thank you for coming to Santita Jackson, but Santita Jackson and Friends is the page that I need you to join. So please, please, please meet us there and meet us here. Like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. So let's talk about this. It's always a joy to talk with you all today. You know, next year we will be celebrating our 250th anniversary. Now, mind you, uh, the British portion of this colonial project in the area that became the United States and really in the Americas goes back to the 1500s. And Black people have been here that long, really. We didn't just get here in 1619. We actually got here in the 1530s. Yeah. But the Spanish really were the first Europeans in this colonial project in this part of the world. And then came the British. And so we have all of that. We have all of that. But, you know, at 250 years, there's always a point of reflection with an empire, with a republic. And we're here. We're here. Who are we going to be when you look at all of this tumult and all of this chaos? Really, to me, that's what we're looking at. Who are we really? Who are we? Who are we? Who are we going to be? Who do we want to be? Who do we need to be? Yeah. So let me bring this to your attention. I saw this and I said, this will be interesting to talk about. Asked if he must uphold the U.S. Constitution, Trump says, I don't know. I don't know. That was in Common Dreams, but it was actually on NBC. I'll read this to you from this accounting of this interview. U.S. President Donald Trump refused in an interview today on Sunday to affirm that the nation's constitution affords due process to citizens, non-citizens alike, and that he, as president, must uphold that fundamental right. Trump told NBC's Kristen Welker, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, who asked if the president agrees with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's statement that everyone on U.S. soil is entitled to due process. When she pointed out that the Fifth Amendment states that no person, quote, shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, close quote, Trump again replied that he's unsure and suggested granting due process to the undocumented immigrants he wants to deport would be too burdensome. He continued, quote, we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials, close quote. He said, echoing a sentiment that his vice president expressed last month. Asked whether he needs to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president, he said, I don't know. That's very interesting. After the Constitutional Convention, according to legend, and quite frankly, according to historical accounts, it has been written that a woman shouted out in the crowd, and in some historical accounts, they give you her name. I can't recall it at the moment, but according to our shared history, as he came out of the Constitutional Convention, he was asked, "What kind of government have you given us, sir?" From this woman who was not included in the right to vote. He said, "A republic, if you can keep it." Wow. We're not a democracy, everybody. The founding fathers did have their own issues with democracies because they felt it was mob rule. So we have a constitutional republic with elements of democracy. And you see it very plainly in Congress. It has two houses. And it reflects the parliament in England. You have the House of Lords and you have the House of Commons. The House of Commons is really the people's house. That's the U.S. representative. I have two brothers, one brother who's been one, another brother who's currently serving in that body, and it is a tremendous privilege. But then you've got the House of Lords, which is the U.S. Senate. And the House of Lords is an appointed position, and the U.S. Senate was an appointed position for a very long time, but there's still elements, Attorney Linda Bernard, of that position that would be appointed. If a member of the House of Representatives resigns or is removed from office or dies, well, there has to be an election. There has to be an election. But in the U.S. Senate, if that person vacates the office before their term expires, it becomes an appointed position. So you see that. But the democracy is when you just have the vote and people have their say. The republic is when powerful forces have theirs. So you see that in the workings of our government, if that makes any sense to you. And I know that it does. So the president clearly is wrestling with this issue. He said, "I don't know if people who are not citizens, uh, many of whom he describes as criminals, and overwhelmingly that is not true." That having been said, he said, "Well, I don't know if they are due process." Although the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, says, if you're on U.S. soil, yeah, you are due process. So I said, let me go to Attorney Linda Bernard. And she's a brilliant lawyer. She's won several cases before the Michigan State Supreme Court. She's the first African American to get a master's in law from the University of Pennsylvania Law School. And she's a police commissioner in Detroit. And I'm always interested in her views. And so I want to know what your thoughts are. So everybody, come on, check in with me. Everybody, thumbs up. I need you to like and share the show. Just like Bernadette says, like and share the show because it helps us with the algorithms. We go back on a lot of shows that you all have liked and shared, and we have north of 1 million views on many of our shows. And I thank you for that. But we need to speed that up and so we can help to grow the show. Okay? And so, Snowman, please like and share. Robert, please like and share. Hey, Bernadette, like and share. Sending all of you so much love today. So, what do you make of this? I want to know what your thoughts are. So, reach out to me. Let me know. What do you think? I mean, and this is for his portion. This is the text, Attorney Linda Bernard, of the presidential oath. It reads as follows: I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Now, many of you say, well, where's the "so help me God"? Well, that's something that a person adds according to their desires. That's "so help me God" is not in the oath. What I read to you, that's the oath. So when Kristen Welker asked him, well, are you compelled to uphold the Constitution? He said, I don't know. So what do you think? I want to know what your thoughts are. Please weigh in, everybody, weigh in, because it's, like I said, hey, Donnie D, you are here, sending you so much love. I think it's important for us to ask and answer this question, Attorney Linda Bernard, because we're at such a pivotal role in our development as a nation. We are a baby amongst nations, Attorney Bernard. Um, the Chinese said, when as they've been pushed on these tariffs, they said, you can do whatever you want. We've been around 5,000 years. So have at it, America. Wow. But that is true. So, Attorney Bernard, um, he said, I don't know. He said, I don't know. When asked if people do due process, he said, I don't know. When asked, um, if he had to uphold the Constitution, what do you make of that?
I think his statement was accurate. The Constitution is subject to something called interpretation, and that interpretation is done by various courts, and the final say on what is due process is always up to the courts. As you know, for many, many years, Black people didn't have a right to be in the courts, and that was because discrimination was the law in the United States of America, particularly in the South. So law evolves, judicial decisions change, and he's absolutely correct. And I might add, in terms of the immigration thing, how do you think that Obama got 3 million people out in 4 years in his administration? He did it by utilizing a law that allows immigration officials, low-level immigration officials, to deport people who haven't been here 2 years. They can just do it by statute, and that's what saved us from a large part of the influx of illegal immigration. But I think one, you can use that, but of course Biden tried to diminish that by giving everybody a piece of paper that said, okay, we checked you in now, so you could be here. And I think that was illegal, totally illegal, quite frankly. It's not up to him to determine citizenship or the right of people to be in the United States. As you and I both know, it's up to the courts. And he couldn't just give people a pass without that in this manner. But it was part of many, many, many things that he did that were illegal and, quite frankly, against America. There is no leader in the world that would let his country be submerged by people who are not citizens, by just walking in, people who can't pay for themselves, don't have any benefits, don't have any money, and we've got to provide everything for them. That makes
but I told you, we've talked about this many, many times. They've been brought here. The corporations. This is what no, but let me just say this. No, this is what globalization, the Lima Declaration of 1975, that was really formed in 1972. That's why you had Nixon going to China, because they had all, these folks who, the masters of the universe, if you will, the people who run the world, they don't go think from sun up to sundown. They think generations ahead. And they had planned to deindustrialize America, and they wrote it and they formalized it 50 years ago. And what they have been doing is, because you have the same crisis in the so-called Western world, which has been built. When I say the Western world, I mean that's Western Europe, and that's the Americas. They have been built. It has been built by unpaid or poorly paid, or barely paid labor on land that they did not purchase, and that they just took. Talk about an illegal alien. That's what we do. That's what the indigenous people have been telling us that for several hundred years. And so it's not that these people just came here because but these people are not coming here seeking freedom. They're running away from home because many of our corporations and our corporatocracy have been trying to have not been trying, they have been destabilizing their governments for decades. That is what we do.
Santita, politics is politics. The Greeks at one time controlled the world. Then the Romans conquered everything. I mean, but we can go back hundreds of years. Well, I understand that. But today in America and everything, today Americans need the support of its government. And this 14 million, or whatever he wants to call it, 20 million, whatever, that are just walking around using America's resources and so forth, while our own people, Black people and Indian people and other people who are, if you will, in the United States, don't have the services and everything that they need, is outrageous.
But I agree with
I
that.
don't know if the Bible says this, maybe you know, but it says, I've always been taught, God, God bless the child in his own. I mean,
Well,
you
no,
have to take care of yourself
that's not
first.
the Bible, but
Okay, well,
that's kind of that's a
God,
song.
God bless the child that has his own. You have to take care of yourself first, and you have to take care of
Yeah,
your people first. Now,
but
you may not agree with that, but
no,
I,
but I do
I
agree with
totally
that.
agree with
But what I'm saying is, we have chosen to build bombs and not bake bread. And when you do that, Dr. King said to us 50 plus years, almost 60 years ago, that we were moving towards spiritual death if we put more money and programs that were military into military programs than programs that promoted spiritual uplift and the uplift of our people. We are taking money out of education. We don't have a healthcare system that can
we
take
should
care of
take it out of
anybody.
education.
Yeah,
We should take it out.
and healthcare. I mean, but no, I'm just saying, if you're going to be, and you know my baby sister Jackie, who has a PhD uh,
Brilliant.
in global education policy. She's teaching over in Japan as a professor now. And what has been stunning to her was something that I saw, my goodness, when she was about 2 or 3, when I was overseas with family friends. Oh, that's my age. She's my baby sister. And you could turn on the when she called me, she was doing some work, and she was working on her PhD over in I think in Norway. And she said, wow, what was your experience here? Because this has been an incredible experience. First of all, it's dark, much because she was there at the time of the year where it's dark most of the, more than 20 hours a day. She said, but you turn on the radio and you can learn another language. Much of their radio is geared toward education. And in countries that are trying to move forward and move upward, Linda, that's what they do.
I
We're
agree.
not doing that. We don't lift the arts, we lift entertainment. I love being entertained. But we now are under the false impression, the misimpression, that if you have a beautiful voice, some talent, you just get on TV and you get one shot and that's it. I'm like, that's not how this really works. Not if you want a career that will sustain you. I don't want to get too far flung. What I'm saying is, I do believe you've got to take care of America, but the people who have their hands on the levers of power, and it's not the elected officials, it's the oligarchs. They don't believe that. They're the ones who did globalization. They're the ones who pushed NAFTA, not the American worker. Reverend Jackson said when Clinton was offering NAFTA, which the Republicans had been trying to push through, but they had to do it through a Democrat, and it's not even a Republican or Democratic thing. He said NAFTA is going to be the death of the American worker, the death of American industry, and that's what it's been. It's
Wow.
not, and that's not a Democratic or Republican thing. It's these greedy people who have American passports, I guess, who don't care anything about Americans. They have us fighting with each other. Don't you know, for people to leave their ancestral land by foot, something has gone horribly wrong. So let's get back here, please. What are the obligations of the president to the Constitution?
The Constitution, as I said, is a document that is constantly evolving. It's subject to interpretation.
Okay.
And things change, and now we're at a new, if you will, plateau where the issue becomes whether or not people who committed a crime, who are in the commission of a crime, even
Hmm.
being in this country, are entitled to the full range of due process. I just pointed out to you there is a law that was passed, I think in '96 or something like that, which says if you've been here less than 2 years, the immigration official can put you out. I think that the things that Biden did complicated the issue considerably. But quite frankly, I really do think that we can provide some limited due process to people who are here illegally. but the full, and I don't think, because the system cannot bear the brunt of a million trials or whatever, full blown when we're thinking of trials,
Mhm.
but it can bear the brunt of hearings. And I would suggest to the president that he appoint a whole slew of administrative hearing judges to
Now,
hear these.
what is an administrative hearing judge?
It's the same kind of a judge, except you're not elected and you're not a real judge. You're an administrative hearing. But if you're trying to get your driver's license back or something like that, or you want to appeal, there's an administrative hearings process.
Oh,
A
when you
federal
go,
one and a
when you
state
go to,
one.
when you go to traffic court, like I did with one of my girlfriends, and he was sitting
No,
behind the
well,
desk.
traffic court actually has a judge, but
Oh,
administrative
okay,
hearings, if you were going to Secretary of State's office to get her
okay,
license back, that's an administrative hearing. It doesn't
okay,
require a sworn judge. Okay. But,
okay.
but I want him to appoint a slew of these. And you can do it obviously from retired lawyers and so forth. And I would suggest that he have mature lawyers at this position, not young people who don't know what they're doing. And I think you could. I've already thought it out. As a matter of fact, I'm going to write him. I've started writing him a letter about it. I
I
think
think you
the
should.
administrative hearings officers should work 3 days a week, 10 hours a day, and that's 30 hours a week. 10 hours a day, 3 days a week, and then the next group comes on. You can just rotate judges that way to hear these cases, and if anybody wants to appeal it, of course they can appeal it. But while that's on appeal, they're out of the country. That's the
Okay,
point. So
okay,
that's the way to do it. To me, as a lawyer and as a former administrative law judge and all this stuff, you could move these cases. You can move them because most of them do not have a defense. The fact that America offers more opportunity, is not a reason for you to come into the country. If your
yeah,
kid has cancer, if you have cancer, something like that, that's different. But you
they're
can't
not
just
being,
walk into my country.
but they're not being given opportunity. They're being used. I
Well,
mean, I no, that's why
all of us are
you know,
used, Santita.
I've
That's all you can
I've
do is
given
make sure
you.
you're not misused.
I've given you their misuse. I've given you the documentation, the tent partnership for refugees, which was signed by our former Secretary of State Anthony Blinken when he was the Secretary of State. It is a document that is designed to bring people into the country
I
so that
understand
they
that.
can work for. No, I'm just saying this is a corporate agenda.
It may be a corporate agenda, but there's a constitutional agenda here. And if they want to change their government, if their government did something illegal or whatever,
No, I mean,
they need to work in their country to do that.
I hear
You
you,
don't
but
come to my
but
country
I'm saying
and expect me to
I
take
guess
care of
I'm
you.
saying something else. Let me be even more specific.
We had a
We don't.
revolution. They can have a revolution.
Yeah. They could, but these people don't believe in countries, Linda. These folks are transnationalists. All
Okay,
they want to do is make their money wherever they can.
I got that.
That's all that they're doing. So they're not even. These folks don't even care about our Constitution. They don't care. They don't care about Americans. They're not patriots. They're really not. They are trying. They're people who they don't even see their customers. If you look at what's happened with shopping today, you used to have a relationship at the grocery store. You used to have a relationship down at the department store when you were buying your dress or what have you. Now everything's been depersonalized. So guess what? Most of our stuff is made in China for cheap. And what we're doing is something very, very, very different. These folks, you don't even know where our stuff comes from now. We don't know. And guess what? It's the system has been designed so that it doesn't matter. We just buy products, and it's a consumer driven economy. And Bezos and everybody make more and more money. Bezos, there's no more. I mean, you don't even have small businesses anymore. If you really want to engage in the marketplace, you have to go through Amazon now as an entrepreneur. I mean, these people have completely broken down the system.
I
You
understand
know,
that. Commerce
I
is
mean,
different
and
now.
so we're talking
Commerce
America first,
is
but they're not.
commerce is what you do on your phone now. It's a different ball game.
Yeah, but I'm
So
just saying, and I'm saying it hurts Americans. So when you're talking about America first with people who could not care less about Americans at all, we're at cross purposes here. These you're talking America first. I'm saying, yeah, we got to take care of home. Everybody knows you're supposed to do that. That having been said, that is not what these people are doing at all. They're looking to make money, pure and simple.
hasn't that
That's
always
it.
been the case since
N-
Jesus was here? The
No,
money
no,
changes were
well,
in the
and Jesus came to correct that.
the money changes were in the temple.
And
That's
Jesus
just it.
came and he overturned the tables because he said
Yes, he did.
this is not right. Just because they're doing it does not mean that it's right.
But it means that if you're going to do it, you want to be successful at it. Period. I mean,
No,
nobody enters
no,
into business to lose money. That's
yeah,
the
but I want us to do it in a moral way.
okay.
That's the only way
You
that
don't want to do it through politics.
no. Politics. There's nothing wrong with politics. There's something wrong with corruption. There's nothing wrong with police. There's something wrong with corruption. There's nothing wrong with big pharma, except big pharma doesn't care about us. It's corrupt. See, these entities in and of themselves, there's nothing wrong with them. It's when the corruption comes in. It's when they stop caring about people. It's when they stop loving people. It's when they stop putting people first. That to me is the problem.
Well, I think I'm putting Americans first. I
Okay,
believe
but
in that.
and you know what? And I
And
think
if
it's a
I was in
wonderful thing.
India, I would put Indians first. If I
I
was in
hear you,
China, I'd put Chinese first.
but none of these people believe in that. All you have to do is look at these big weddings, right? These big weddings are international. And these folks, all they're trying to do is figure out how to make money. They're not thinking about borders. The borders between Canada, the United States, and Mexico were erased with these trade agreements in in the early 90s. I mean, there's no such thing. Lou Dobbs, God rest his soul, used to argue against that on Fox years ago, and I really appreciated him because I felt that he was really pulling for the American worker, and that is not what we have, Linda. I mean, we have people who could not care less about the American worker. They don't care. They really don't. You're talking about saving the American worker. These folks are not thinking about that. They're not thinking about America first. They're not.
Actually, they
They
are. They just voted for it.
no. I think they campaign on it. It's wonderful rhetoric, but that is not what they're doing. It's just not.
Maybe
It's
as
not.
you put it, the oligarchs don't, but the American people want America first. And they are not willing to pay for people who are in the commission of a crime. No more than they're going to pay for a person to break in their house. I've said this before. You got a door at your front door. What does that say? That says you have to have my permission to come into my house. You can't just walk in. You cannot walk into my country.
But
I don't care
I
who you are.
agree. But I'm saying they're not doing it. Other people are standing and opening the door, because even the people who Donald Trump are deporting are not these migrants. He's deporting these pro-Palestinian students. The numbers are way down. He has deported far fewer people than Biden, and certainly far fewer people than Obama. Obama, they called him the deporter in chief. He deported people.
Which was
But
wonderful.
yeah, what I'm saying to you is that is not what Trump is doing. Trump is getting people out of here who could pay those $100,000 a year tuitions and then some. And more specifically, people who are supportive of Palestinians. That's who's being pushed out of here. They're the ones who are being deported. These other
Well,
people, I mean, the numbers are there. That's what's happening.
Well, it appears that more criminals are being deported than anything, but I'm for anybody
No,
who's
that's
not
not
here
even
lawfully.
appears.
And the Palestinians that I'm aware of are here lawfully. And I do not agree
That,
with his
no, well,
deportation.
I'm saying those who support that cause,
Yeah,
and not at the expense of Israelis, not at all. Mahmoud Khalil is really, you have the Rhodes scholarships and things like that. He is affiliated with a similar program out of England. He is someone who's very establishment, And he was really regarded by the establishment at the university as someone who was very safe because he was very reasonable. But because he stood up for the Palestinians, they pushed him down in Louisiana. We don't know when he's going to get back, if he will. He was very, very not just law abiding. He's someone who's a very establishment guy, very establishment.
Well, I'm opposed to what's happening with the universities in terms of freedom of speech and so forth. There's a difference between terrorism, and terrorist activities or support and just exercising free speech. And we both know that because your father was part of the movement that capitalized on free speech. So, but it makes no sense. And being an American taxpayer has nothing to do with your rights of citizenship. If I lived in France for the last 30 years, I'd be paying taxes in France. Mm-hmm. And I still wouldn't be a citizen. So therefore, people can live wherever they want to live. When Beyonce goes to Europe, goes to Paris with her concert, she pays taxes in Paris before mm-hmm. she leaves. That doesn't make her a citizen. So I mean, but
if she gets sick there, she falls under their healthcare system, and so she does not have to pay, or she pays for medicine at a nominal fee. I've spent enough time in Europe.
Well, we could all become citizens of other countries. Nothing's stopping us.
No. But no, I'm saying
if we wanted to do that.
I've taken ill in France and Italy.
I know you have all over the world.
No. I mean, no one wants to take ill everywhere, but I have had to get medicine, and I've paid, what you pay, because of the structure of their system. I want to go back to this point, though. Really, what about? And let me just give you your flowers because. Correctional officer for the lockdown says that attorney Linda Bernard is a true Black legal soldier with a warrior spirit. She reminds me of my college professor, Dr. Gloria Peace, who always kept the class on blast with challenging. I hear you, and I love her. And steel sharpens steel. That's why I have her here. That having been said, she and I just have a disagreement about how and why these people are here. And
they gotta go. I don't care why they're here. Bye, girl, bye. Just like you tell a guy, bye, boy, bye.
Well, I hear you, but I'm saying to you, I'm simply saying this: if you're going to do that, you must hold these corporations accountable, who are the ones who are the culprits here. Because
that's not the agenda right now.
No.
Because your country's messed up, because your people haven't gotten together and gotten your democracy or whatever it is together. Then you want to come here. Sorry, Charlie.
No. That's not what's happening.
Santita, can I make one point real quick? Think about all those people that are on the waiting list to get in America, who filed all their paperwork, like the girl that you had on, who's the lawyer whose parents were from Haiti. They both filed their paperwork. They came to America from Haiti.
And when they did that? They did that because Black people were in the streets marching in the 60s.
That's fine, but they did it legally.
And they wanted them in and the establishment wanted them in for their own reasons. And the establishment wants, because they're even talking about
why should they be out of the country while we have thousands of illegals in? Why should people follow the rules?
Linda, that's not even the discussion we're supposed to be having here today. Now you can keep on going with this. No. But I'm saying to you, you ignore the fact here. It's not a fact.
I'm not ignoring the facts.
No. The 10th partnership, I've sent it to you several times. Clearly, you haven't read it.
I know that. I did read it, Santita. I did, and I saw what they did.
But I'm saying to you,
if you have an appointment with your doctor, you have a right before people people come in.
No. What I'm saying to you is
people on the waiting list to come to America.
I hear you, but slavery,
and those people should come first.
Linda, let's talk with each other, not over.
Okay.
What I'm simply saying to you, and I understand your excitement because you're brilliant, and your mind goes a billion miles a minute. I respect that. That having been said, what is happening here is what happened in slavery. Hold it. Because we were brought here on a corporate agenda. America is technically, it's actually a corporation. It's the corporation That's called the United States of America. That's what it is. And colonialism is a business project. What these people were doing, Columbus, the discoverer who got lost, who never even made it to
That's
North
correct.
America,
That's the
he
truth.
was sent on a fishing expedition looking for riches that he was going to steal from other people's land.
Correct.
That's what
That's
he did. And what he
100%.
did was he brought them venereal disease and death. That's what he did. He did all of that. And so, what I'm simply saying is this guy was coming over here for Queen Isabella to find more riches for her so she could be richer and so she could be the big cheese in Europe. That's all this was about.
Okay.
And what's happening now is the same thing. The corporations, the monarchs have been joined, not replaced. They've been joined by the oligarchs. They're doing the same thing. They're just as rapacious. They don't care about people. And they're now they're now that they have joined the kings and the queens. That is what they've done. And so I'm simply saying to you, yeah, should people come here illegally? Of course you shouldn't break the laws. No, you shouldn't. But I'm saying to you that we have the people who have structured this system in a way to make them look like the lawbreakers. And these are people raping people financially because that's why they're bringing them here. They're bringing them here to do work and pay them little to nothing, give them no health benefits. And it's a horrible thing that's happening here. Now, and I'm saying to treat them inhumanely just to send them to El Salvador. No,
I
you
didn't
don't
say
do that.
inhumane.
No, it's inhumane. I mean, because guess what? They pick you and me up off the streets because they're always telling us to go back to Africa or wherever they think we're from. Because you know that happens. They don't do that with white people in America. They do it with people of color.
I think that's true.
That you know is true.
Right.
There's been a case. I mean,
They tell us to go. They don't tell them to go back to London.
no, they don't. They don't because they just belong here. I mean, Donald Trump has only been here a generation.
Right.
His parents spoke with thick accents because they weren't born in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really. So I'm just saying. I mean, and he married and two of his three wives. Please, Ivana was not a citizen until after she'd had her three children.
Mm-hmm.
Melania came here on a genius grant. Really? Are you for real? I mean, okay, and I accept that, and I accept the fact that that she's a citizen of two countries right now. Okay, I got it. But when she says I came here and did it the right way, did you really? Really?
And her parents too.
No,
They're
no,
all
no, no,
American
no, no,
citizens.
no, no. They were all brought in and they got hooked up. You know
Right.
that.
I agree with that. But that happened.
Okay.
That's
So
just life.
no. So no. See, I get it. I know it's life, but don't sit up here and tell me you did it the right way when you were able to go around the rules. That's a lie. It's a
Well, she did.
lie.
I agree with that.
And
And her
no,
parents.
and I ain't mad at you. I'm just saying stop it. And when you know that someone opened a door for you, I'll give you a little example. One of my dearest friends, bless her heart, she has gone on to glory. She was talking about one of her friends who, before I guess like the last quarter or last semester or whatever system they're on at their alma mater, I'm not going to name the school. She had a really hard time, and she was, became very, very anxious because they were not going to let her march that June, right? And so they let her march, but she didn't finish until the summer. Okay. She ended up becoming a dean at another college because this was a very prestigious school. And what my sister friend was appalled because this same woman, who was a girl at the time, who had been given a break to let her because her family, who didn't have a lot of money, had traveled to watch her walk across that stage. She was so hard on the students who needed a break, who needed a similar kind of break. And she confronted her. She said, how could you be so unkind when you know, and I know that you got a break?
Correct.
You got a break.
Correct.
And that irritates me.
Me too.
I'm like, you got in and somebody kind of move things around for you. Hey, everybody wants a hookup. I ain't mad about that.
Mhm.
I ain't mad about it. And you know what? If people like you, they hook you up. They're kind to you. I mean, I get it. But what I'm simply saying to you is, wait a minute. The grace that someone is given to you, if you don't give it to someone, there's a special ring of hell for you.
I
Because
hope so.
you have been unkind.
Correct. A lack of compassion.
I mean, wait a minute. You have forgotten where you came from.
Correct.
And my
But that's true
pastor's
of a lot of
wife,
people.
but 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 it's wrong.
The
Doesn't
people
make
I
it
know.
right. This doesn't make it right.
Mhm.
Doesn't make it right. So I'm simply saying, wait a minute. As we are talking about our president, as we're looking at just who we are and what we're doing. Wait a minute. What did you say? Correctional officer for the lockdown. Just wait until Barron and X, Elon Musk's son, become the oligarchs of their parents. The oligarch rascals bear careful watching. The youth of the power elite, to include the Saudi empire, too. Power, absolute power, corrupts absolutely. Correctional officer for the lockdown. And so, that's why you have to be very careful with power. My father has said to us often, if you have power, try never to use it, because if you use it, you could abuse it, and if you abuse it, you will lose it. And at the end of the day, he said, ultimately, all of these gifts come from God. And if you don't use the power that God has given you for God's purpose, you're going to pay.
Yeah, but they think it's scant. They're willing to. People are willing to go to hell to get what they want.
They are, and you know what, we're living in a time, Linda, where now your hell is right here before you even get there,
Right.
because so much is being exposed now. Just even how we do things, how we do business.
That's true.
I mean, just bringing all these people in, and they're talking about making them seasonal workers. It's the biggest lie, and we're fighting them instead of fighting the power.
I'm not
You
fighting
got
them.
these
You just gotta
people.
go.
I hear you, but you know what?
They come in my house.
I hear you, but yeah, but we shouldn't be unkind to them.
I'm not unkind.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying I don't believe in being unkind to people, being
Me
without
either.
compassion, and not looking at how and why they're here. That's my point.
We know why they're here, because they get free everything.
No,
They get
no, no,
free
no, no,
housing,
no,
free
no, no,
education,
no, no,
free
no. They
check,
don't get. They don't.
free cell phone, free
Honey,
computer.
baby,
5 free
we
things.
don't even get that. The
We
Ukrainians,
don't get it. That's correct.
the Ukrainians who were brought here have been getting that. Europeans get that. They have always gotten that when they come here. Brown people, brown and black people who come here don't get those breaks. My question for you is the original question. I want to know, does a president have the obligation to uphold the Constitution?
He
Now,
does.
Donnie D said that
He
it's a
does.
dead document and it's open to interpretation. Okay,
That's what I said.
I was just telling you that's what Donnie D said. So I mean, you have some people who are agreeing with you. That's why
400 years old. Yeah, it's been interpreted
I don't
many,
want
many ways.
anyone to think that I just have someone on here and just just so that Linda's one of my dearest, dearest friends from ever. I mean, and for those of you who get upset with her, and for those of you who cheer her on, just want you to know that she has been in the movement and been one of our closest allies forever and ever and ever. Amen. So y'all can just leave Linda alone, please.
Oh my. Bring it on.
No. I don't do that. So no, because I want people to understand that you can.
Because I love your audience, I love our community, and I love my country. And I want my country to do well, because I know if our country doesn't do well, Black folks will be the first ones that are out in the back forth.
Amen.
So
Amen.
I want my country to be strong, and I want our people to be educated and healthy.
And you know
that's
what I
not
want?
happening currently.
And you know what I want? I want our country to be strong, but I want our country to be right. No. I'm just all I can do is go on what my parents said. Because my mother would tell me, if it's not moral, this is not going to work.
I know that. I know how your mother, she's wonderful, but your father is the oracle of all time, at least certainly of this century. last
Well,
country too.
I will just say this: what they have said that if it's not right, it's not going to be right.
Okay,
And that's not. And what you can't get blessed doing wrong.
that's true.
And so
Long
all I'm
term,
saying is, we just know the blessing is you're not going to be blessed. You ain't going to be blessed being wrong and being unkind. And I'm just wondering. That's why I had to ask when I saw this, because I could see that the interviewer was looking like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me? He said, I don't know. He said, I'm
that's
no
correct.
lawyer.
That's
He
correct.
said, okay. He said, I don't know. But you got the Secretary of State who says that no, when you come on these shores, you have got to um, uphold. You do due process, and you're saying maybe not so much. And
Right.
I'm just trying to find out from you just how that squares. And because, if we had a citizen who, and Reverend has rescued a good many of them. If we had a citizen in other countries, and we've had them, and he's had to go get them, if they were being treated, I mean, that's why you have international law. You know this better than anybody.
If our people are overseas somewhere, they're in jail. And if they've been caught, they don't have that foolishness that we have over here.
What's
For
that foolish? No, no, no. Robert Goodman he had flown into enemy territory, and they had him.
Oh, I
They had
remember
him.
that like yesterday. And your
Of
father
course you do.
on the White House lawn with Reagan. I'll never
Well, no.
forget.
First of all, they wouldn't. They weren't going to get it. They weren't going to go get him. Remember that?
Oh,
That's what
they
Reverend
told
was.
your father not to go.
Well,
And Reagan said, "I will not protect you if something happens to you over there." I remember it on television.
yeah, but his Secret
Myself.
Service had to take him, so there was that.
Oh, well, that's what he said on TV. He
Yeah,
said, I'm not going to protect you." I think Farrakhan went with him, as I recall.
Farrakhan and
A bunch of other
Reverend
religious
White and
leaders.
Reverend White T. Walker, because it was a religious pilgrimage.
And
And
they also went to Europe. Remember when they were bombing whatever the name of that
oh,
country is?
Sarajevo.
Yeah, I have that videotape, the bombs in the background, and they told him not to go there too.
Yeah,
He went
and that was
anyway.
under the Clinton administration. But
Yeah,
when they brought them back, and bless their hearts, they
he
keep
brought
coming
them
back.
back too. And he
Yeah,
brought them back from Cuba. They
yeah.
also told him not to go there. And he
Well,
went to Cuba
he kept on going.
because he was walking in with God. There's no question in my mind about it.
Well, you know
Anytime you
what?
walk in the fire 3 times and come out unburned, unscathed, it's amazing.
Yeah, but Thalia, she's not rude. Is it? Linda is absolutely brilliant, and she gets very excited. Just I've known Linda a very long time, and I know she gets very, very excited, and we love her because we know the gem that she is.
I
And
love
so,
courage and self-determination. And you and your family have always demonstrated that, especially your father and your mother when they almost kept her in Africa. So no, you can't. The facts are the facts. And when people have real courage and real integrity and they're really for people, then they've got my 200% support. Always.
well,
And not scared.
we can before we go. We only have like 5 minutes left here. Can you talk? Can you give me a word on the president of the United States? Because wait a minute. Next time we're gonna have a discussion on the trans. I promise you. Don't you get started on that right now. I'm telling you right now. Be quiet. I only have 5 more minutes. But if it's either these migrants or the trans kids, and I want to have compassion for everybody. That having been said, the president you're saying is you saying that President Trump is right. I mean, well, he said he's not a lawyer. He doesn't know. But just because he doesn't know, I mean, he took an oath to uphold the Constitution, Linda.
Yes.
So,
And he has.
but he said he does not know. He said he doesn't know if he's obligated to live up to the oath.
That's not what he said. He said he didn't know about due process in the Constitution because it's constantly evolving. It's like 1 year old today, then it's 3 year old. And it changes, it morphs. The due process rights are something that have morphed throughout our history, and they will continue to do that. They change shape, time, everything changes depending on the judge you're before. And of course, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter. So we'll
Well,
see.
Just so that you know, U.S. President Donald Trump refused in an interview released Sunday to affirm that the nation's constitution affords due process to citizens and non-citizens alike, and that he, as president, must uphold that fundamental right. He said, "I don't know. I'm not a lawyer." So you were saying, well, it's open to interpretation.
Correct.
But
Some
that puts him at cross purposes with his Secretary of State.
Yes, it does. And so what? He's an appointee, and that's that. He's entitled to his opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but in the final arbiter will be the Supreme Court. That will define what the constitutional rights are for due process for all of us, and it has in the past.
Well,
And
very
actually,
quickly, what is due process?
due process is the right to a hearing. It's a right to representation. It's a right to see the evidence against you. It's also the obligation of the prosecutor or the government to give you all the information they have on you and all that, so that you're not walking in blind. It's just fundamental fairness. That's really what due process is. What Americans interpret as fundamental fairness is not interpreted that way everywhere in the world.
Okay.
Because you can get your hand cut off in a lot of places just for taking your wallet, and then there's your hand. There's no hearing. There's no nothing.
Well, is that fair?
No, of course not, and it's wrong. It's among the main people. Period. But no,
But if you're in someone else's
but
country, are you saying that you have to respect their laws, right?
that's absolutely right. And
Okay.
if you
So
don't,
so I
the
guess
consequences are dire. In America, you get away with it.
okay. Well, not get away with it. You have the other protections, but I guess it's potato, potato, tomato, tomato. We don't have to call the whole thing off, but we just hey, you know what? Steel sharpens steel because you see through what I love your mind and I love being challenged. I really do. And I want to thank you with all
I
of my
love
heart.
you
Yeah,
totally,
I love you and I
unconditionally.
appreciate you. Oh, come on, you know that. And I just, I wanted to really understand your thinking on this. And as the Lord would have it, there were several people who I asked to be a part of this. They couldn't join, but I'm so glad that I was able to have this one-on-one with you because I do know whether you agree with attorney Linda Bernard or not, she's got a steel trap mind. She's got a brilliant mind and she does know the law. Honest to God, she does. And so, and I just, and you're right, Bernadette, she's just fiery. And you know what? If you're in trouble, you want her on your side. You want her to be your lawyer. She's not going to play. And I love it. I told you she wrote a contract for me, and they said, "Who did this?" she, whoo, my goodness. And I thank God for her. So let's just see how this all goes. Because at the end of the day, Linda, we need to be blessings. As we want the Lord to bless us, we must bless others.
I
And
agree.
sometimes you take hits, and it might look like on one hand that you're not being blessed, that you might have a losing hand, but you never have a losing hand when you are fighting for the Lord ever, not ever, not
When
ever.
you're breathing,
You're
have a
breathing. You
losing
know
hand.
what? I've seen the money my father made. He gave away. He gave to push. He bought the building. He paid the salaries. That's where he made his money. He made the money. He did what Dr. King did, and he used his gifts and gave and donated all of it to the movement. When we took him to Mayo Clinic last week, well, over the past couple of weeks, just as a checkup, everybody, it's one of the best hospitals in the world, and just wanted to know just where is he with the Parkinson's and with just what are we looking at and how he's doing and how can we make him more comfortable and more functional. To see the cooks, as they were taking the order for what he wanted to eat, to see them come up and when they saw that he was receptive and that we were receptive, to see how excited they were
Right.
to see him, to have them say, "You fought for me, and I want to thank you." And to see the president of the hospital come over and to thank him for his service and for his work. You can't pay people for that,
Oh, you
you
can.
know. And so I just always want to be kind. I want to be good. I want to be kind. And if you don't know how to handle my kindness, well, that's on you. That's on you. I'm not going to soil my soul by being unkind to you. I'm going to try. I'm going to try.
That I agree
So,
with you on 100%.
yeah. So let's you know what, everybody, let's be kind to each other and let's continue to debate these issues, because I think that we're at a point in our history where we're going to have to do that. And the Lord has let us all live in this time, in this period, Linda, where so
Yeah.
much is being revealed. So much. And that is the blessing. So much every day. You
Well,
got
you are a
wisdom.
blessing, and your audience is a blessing. And your right to speak your mind is obviously a blessing that your father worked harder for than any other human being on earth today. That's a
Well,
fact.
well, you know,
He,
he's
he
done
fought
his
for them to be able to talk in Tiananmen Square, and they were massacring them with tanks and stuff. No, no, no. You got the blood of a champion in your veins, and you use it all the time for the people.
Well, you do too. And so, and I love you for that. And everybody, I'm so glad that you've been here today. Please like and share the show. Like and share the show. And thank you for joining us today.
And what's the
Thank you.
name of that website you want us to be on? You said Santita
Oh,
Jackson and Friends.
Santita Jackson and friends on
Is the
Facebook. Yeah,
A-N-D?
A-N-D.
A-N-D.
Santita Jackson and friends. Thank you for that, Linda.
Not
Santita
what?
Jackson and friends. It's Facebook. That's my Facebook page.
Oh, Facebook.
People look up Santita Jackson and they go there, but I can't get friends at Santita Jackson. It has to
Okay,
be
Santita
Santita Jackson
Jackson
and friends.
and Friends on Facebook. And you're on X, you said, which is my man Elon Musk's station.
Oh Lord.
I can't wait to
That's
talk about
Santita
it.
J. Whew, and
Wait, it
Blue
was
Sky.
Santita J on X?
Uh-huh.
What
At
is it?
Santita J.
Is it a .com or anything?
No. It's that's it. That's my handle at Santita J. And then on Blue Sky, I'm Santita Jackson.
On
Now,
what?
ASK
You said
Blue Sky. It's a new one.
Brusai?
Blue Sky. Don't worry. We're gonna close
Spell it
this up.
for me. I don't know how to spell it.
Well, you know, when we get off, I'm gonna give that to you.
Okay. All right.
But
Okay.
everybody, I want you to know that I love you. I'm trying to please meet me on X at Santita J. Blue Sky, santitajackson.bsky.social, and the Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. That's the only
Facebook.
place where I can get friends. So please, everybody, spread the word. And then Santita Jackson Show, the Santita Jackson Show, which is where you are right now. Everybody, like and subscribe. And please pass along the show. Thank you. That's right, Bernadette. She's just fiery. And that's why we love her. She is no shrinking violet, and nor should she be. I love you all, everybody. I love you all so much. Let me put my earring back on so that can be what you see. Woo! Love you, everybody. God bless you.
God
AM
bless you.
950 Radio, the voice of progressive ministry.